Hey folks, David Stewart here. What I'd like to talk a little bit about today and give a little review of is this giant Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit box set illustrated by Alan Lee. This is put out by HarperCollins. This is the British edition, the British printing of this. And the short version of what I'm about to say and show to you guys is that I would actually recommend looking for older versions of this, the 2014 version or one of the earlier versions, like I think there's one from the early 2000s, as well as this was originally from 1991, I think. So looking at those on the used market rather than getting this 2020 edition because of a couple of what I would consider suboptimal materials choices. But let's take a look at one of the books and I'll show you exactly what I am talking about here. So here we are. We have our Fellowship of the Ring, and of course there's 4 other books here, and they're all pretty much the same quality, and they all have more or less the same problems. Now, I have a book jacket protector on this basically because after a couple of days of very light handling, the book jacket, the dust jacket, was almost completely, not completely destroyed, but was really harmed. And I'm very, very gentle with my books, but all of the edges here got completely torn up and folded over. It's like they made this of tissue paper. And then there was a rip at the bottom. I don't even know how that happened. But all I've done is sit in my chair and read this to my kids. They haven't even really played with it or anything. And the dust jacket is completely destroyed. I've never had a dust jacket get wrecked like this, so I had to put a protector on it. The maps are in the end papers, and that's slightly suboptimal. I have some other books that have a fold-out map, which is better because you have this big crease going right down the middle that makes it kind of hard to actually read the map, but it's big enough to read. That's okay. One thing I like about this edition and the earlier editions is the use of like the red ink in the middle. That's such a great touch. The overall quality of the typesetting is generally pretty good. It's a little bit narrow with kind of wider margins. It's still comfortable to read. I can read it without my reading glasses without too much problem. And that's kind of what I expect from a larger format hardback, is that there's enough space for the text to breathe, that it's not too hard to read. So in general, I think the typesetting's good. It's the same typesetting on the older editions. I like the red letters. That's on a couple of different editions. I think that's just a really nice, high quality touch. Here's the other problem, besides the fact that the dust jacket's made of some sort of paper designed to disintegrate upon any kind of touching, is actually the art itself. Let me see if I can find a couple of examples. So when they were printing this art, they printed it on a matte paper, just like how the book jacket is matte. And I have another HarperCollins edition just to show you what the matte jacket looks like, because I have it in a protector that actually makes it look better than it is because of the higher contrast you get with a more reflective surface. But the Fall of Gondolin here, which is a newer one, it looks okay, but if you compare it to, say, this American edition of Luthien and Baron with a glossy book jacket, this is more robust, it feels better, and the art pops much more because of the way the ink lays on a shinier page. In this case, the ink gets absorbed, and so all the dark colors just become a very washed out gray. I don't know if you can see that on your screen, but it's very washed out. It's like you crank the brightness on a monitor up and turn down the contrast, and that's what you get with these matte dust jackets. And you have the same problem with the interior art, and that is that it's very, very washed out. It's like you've cranked up the brightness and you've turned down the contrast. There are no blacks. Everything is a washed out gray because the page absorbs the ink. This is not a problem for black and white pictures, such as an ink drawing. A black and white ink drawing looks okay on this because it's only 2 colors, so loss of contrast doesn't matter that much, and the main thing you want is a really accurate line as to where the ink was. But even so, a lot of people will print black and white stuff on a shinier page to get the full detail. Now, just to show as an example, this is also a British edition, but it has a glossier pages for the art, and as a result, the art looks much, much better on these other books. Same artist. Alan Lee is the same artist for all of these, but his art, even though it's watercolors, it looks much better with the shinier page. You can see this is really high detail, high contrast, easy to see the detail. This is very washed out. It's hard to see any of these details in the background. They're just completely non-existent. There's an even better version a little bit later where you can really see. Anytime the picture is completely dark, like on your page, on your screen, you probably can't tell what you're looking at here at all. There's some horses. You might look hard enough and see that it's some black riders, or you have to get like a second light out that's really bright and just look at it really close, because all the blacks have been absorbed by the page and turned into an ugly kind of mishmash of gray. So the unfortunate thing about this edition is this choice of, now these are a different paper than the rest of this. So it's not like they printed everything on the same paper, but they didn't use the correct kind of paper for art. They used this matte paper, which if you were to put a piece of glass over this and frame it, it would actually not look too bad, because you have a little bit of enhanced contrast with, say, this dust jacket cover. Makes it look a little bit better than it actually is. It actually looks much worse than it does if I were to take this dust jacket cover off. Also, just as an aside, this choice of image is actually a really bad cover image. I've talked about cover design. Compare this to this great image, or this great image. Why did they choose the picture of Rivendell for the cover of the book? I don't know. There's so many other just amazing images in this book by Alan Lee, and they chose one that is a good picture for the interior of the book, but doesn't make a very good cover really at all. So you can see with something like this, there's just no sense of light and dark here working at all. Whereas if we were to look at a darker image out of the Luthien book by the same artist, you can just really see the difference when I lay them side by side. This is washed out, can't tell what's going on. This is high detail, you can see pretty much everything that's going on. And this isn't even a really glossy page, it's like a semi-gloss. But the ink floats on it better, the higher contrast, it just looks so much better on a shinier page. And there's even better examples. I could pull out other books, even by perhaps this, this one has Alan Lee as well as Ted Nasmith and others. But you could see like it's just, you lose the contrast. This is another British edition. When you have this map page, you can't see the details very good. This is from the Unfinished Tales. Again, a HarperCollins printing. So because of these bad choices, I guess, in materials, and especially the loss of the detail in the art, I'm going to say, if you can, try to get an older edition. This is very unfortunate because, to me, the big value of the illustrated edition and the super nice typesetting and everything isn't just like the words on the page, which look nice. It's that art. That's one of the reasons that you're paying a premium price for a nice hardback, and you kind of expect the dust jacket to last longer than 3 days with light handling by an adult before it starts to fall apart. So that's very unfortunate. That's my overall evaluation of this this box set here. So if you can get it for a good price, it's probably still okay to get. Just be aware that the art looks very suboptimal compared to other editions of the book. So that's all I have to say about that. Thanks so much. Leave me your thoughts down below. I've been grabbing a lot of these physical editions of the Tolkien books because I have a feeling that if things continue on, it's going to be harder to get unaltered and original versions of all the Christopher Tolkien and J.R.R. Tolkien versions that are out there. So thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you all next time.